Hello and welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and today we're going to be exploring very hot conversations in the political and entertainment space. As we all know, there is a new INEC boss in town, and he has literally been on everyone's lips with the appointment of Professor Joash Amopitan, SEN, as the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission. Nigerians are beginning to have hope as to what the 2027 elections will bring. While some parties are of the opinion that he's a man of integrity, other people are concerned about the fact that he was appointed by the incumbent president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which is constitutionally guaranteed. However, people have always been of the opinion that when a sitting president actually appoints the INEC chairman, will the INEC chairman work for Nigerians, or will the INEC chairman work for the president? Now, these are conversations that we will be exploring, and to discuss INEC and the road to 2027 elections, can new leadership restore trust for Nigerians? Is a lawyer. He's right here in the studio with me, Justice Ojie No. Welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure to join you.
How you doing?
Fantastic.
Oh, all right. I'm just going to get straight into it. Yes, we have a new dispensation for the Independent National Electoral Commission, and a lot of people are saying that before this transition happened, the past INEC chairman, Professor Yakubu, is yet to tell Nigerians what caused the glitch. What is your opinion on that?
Okay, for me, I'm particularly devastated at the administration of Mahmoud Yakubu as to what caused the glitch. Is in the best position to actually answer. I feel that his tenure was disastrous. It was a shame, a grand show of shame to the academia when it comes to his appointment to that office. And it is doubly a grander show of shame, because he was particularly brilliant academically in history. He was a graduate of history. He was the best graduating student, first class, from a Nigerian university, went abroad, went to Oxford, went to Cambridge, got a master's and a PhD, became a professor. Despite all those, he came to get the reins of power in INEC, and it was more than disastrous. We were on an upward trajectory with Professor Jega back in 2011 and 2015, only for him to take over the reins of power, and all we started experiencing was a nosedive until this country was almost crashed in 2023 with the greatest level of voter apathy looming, because of how terribly it dashed the hopes of the average Nigerian that for the first time decided to have faith in the electoral process. So I am particularly absolutely ashamed of his tenure as a leader in INEC.
Okay, so the new INEC chairman, a lot of people have described him as being very apolitical. We cannot trace any political ties to the current chairman. So I'm going to quickly speak to our guest joining us virtually. He's also a lawyer, Festus Ogun. Welcome to the program. What are your thoughts on the new electoral boss?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Very well. For me, I do not think the trouble with INEC or the trouble with our justice of our electoral system, I do not believe it lies really with the leadership or with whosoever is going to lead the commission. The question that remains pertinent for me is, leaving aside the issue of the process of appointing the INEC boss, the question is that, do we have a system that is ready and capable of dispensing electoral justice to the people of our country? That's, for me, the biggest question. You see, for me, the greatest challenge with INEC is first, the Electoral Commission doesn't play by its rules. Before the 2023 elections, there were rules. INEC provided guidelines for the election. There were bylaws made by INEC all by itself. We had the Electoral Act enacted in 2022. But what we saw was an INEC that failed to substantially comply by the guidelines that is set to conduct the very election. So for me, I feel that, well, we have a new leadership, but the new leadership must be willing and committed to do something very different.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me, the academic background. It doesn't matter to me the amount of laurels that the leadership.
All right, Mr. Festus.
The INEC has.
Yeah.
What is more important to me is the willingness and readiness of INEC to play by the rules.
Okay, so also people have said that he is a new player in this particular system, and some people are of the opinion that he might not necessarily understand the ropes yet. And there's some people that are asking the question, why are some senior officers within the system in itself not appointed? Why do we have to bring in somebody new to actually head such an important body? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he has enough time to learn on the job and conduct a credible 2027 elections? Festus?
Conducting an election is not rocket science, if you ask me. I would say that, look, what is needed is the commitment to stand by the people of our country and without playing by the dictates or the tone of the political actors. All that the people of our country need, whether you are from the academia, whether you are from the private sector, or whether you are a civil servant, whatsoever your background is, what matters to our country is that when we go on election day to cast our vote, are those votes going to count? So we want a leadership that is committed to playing by the rules. When they put out guidelines, no, we don't want a leadership that will tell us to go to court. Oh, if you are not satisfied, go to court. That is what we saw in the last dispensation. Oh, if you are not comfortable with the election we have conducted, go to court. Knowing fully well that the current legal and electoral jurisprudence in the country doesn't favor whosoever go to court. It's not fashioned in a way that favors whosoever go to court. So they tell you go to court. The kind of electoral system that the people of our country are yearning for is that kind that will reflect the will and aspiration of our people. Is that kind that plays by its very own rules. Is that kind that protects the vote of our people, not the kind that collude with the political elite, but in subverting the will and aspiration of our people. So, regardless of the background of whosoever is leading INEC, it is my considered view that what matters more to our people is that our votes begin to count. Is that those at the end of our affair are responsible and are willing to take responsibility for any infraction or any inadequacies that comes along the way, because we do not expect an extremely perfect system. But when there are responsibilities, when there are issues, we want a leadership that will take on this issue, that will take responsibility, and not the kind of leadership that treats our countrymen with contempt, with derision, and tells our countrymen almost at every instance to go to court. Just go to court if you are not satisfied with what election that we have conducted. Okay. We want an INEC that doesn't leave the job of conducting election or choosing leaders to the court.
Festus.
I'm sorry.
No, I understand the passion you're speaking with, I understand the passion. We're going to get back to you because we need to actually sample Justice's opinion. Now, from what Festus is saying, you can see that he's speaking passionately about the
Festus is a very passionate person.
About the independence of our institutions. We see a current government, building houses for judges, which I mean, it's a good thing. I believe that the people at the helm of affairs of the judicial system should be comfortable. So I don't necessarily fault that.
But it shouldn't be a direct gift from politicians to judges.
So
should be, the judiciary should be funded sufficiently to directly, not just a current expenditure, but also capital expenditure to the point where the judiciary can take out of the money. The Chief Justice of Nigeria can take out of the money and build houses for judges. We do not have to pander to some politicians in order to be able to get such gifts.
So are you maybe insinuating that that could also be some sort of gesture leading up to 2027?
You're putting me in a very, very difficult position. And Festus, my very, very good friend too. We know how we talk about these things within our circles, and we are careful not to say it outside.
I know you're a lawyer.
Yes, of course, I'm a lawyer, and Festus too can bear me witness on this. We deal with ourselves seriously in private, but when it comes to public, we try in a way not to, because there's a tendency for it to be misinterpreted. I fully agree with you on the point where inducement, political inducement, financial inducements, by way of giving judges what they are naturally entitled to, because you have to know the position of a judge. A judge is a person that has devoted his life to that particular job. Is in essence, in a manner of speaking, a hermit. They are isolated. They cannot go to parties. They cannot hug their friends in public. Even when they go for holidays, their compulsory holidays every year, it is to one isolated situation and things like that, because they cannot lead the normal lives that the average persons lead. I no matter how successful in my career, I've sworn that I will never ever be a judge, because I do not want to be gagged in a gulag, in a manner of speaking, because of the kind of restrictions that they face. So when it now comes to some of the things that they deserve, and they are to be seen and not to be heard, when they are in courtrooms that are not air-conditioned, and the offices of the executive governors are fully air-conditioned, and they are joining in tricycles with suspects. Just imagine that. That happens in our country, where a judge is in a keke with a suspect, a robbery suspect. What do you think is the fate of that? Do you not think that particular suspect can harm that judge? Yeah. So sometimes it now forces judges to. Let me just stop there.
I understand. And we're going to get back to how we can truly make our institutions independent and autonomous, as they should be. However, let's get back to the conversation so we don't swerve off. Billions and billions of naira are being allocated every single election cycle. The last time, billions of naira were allocated, and we're still having issues with the technology, you know, the beavers, the voting machines, etc., etc. And how are we sure that such a thing will not occur in 2027? Because I'm pretty sure that a lot of money will be allocated towards the elections as well. What do you think you have to tell the new INEC chairman? What does he have to do with his new leadership to ensure that all the technology function as they should?
He should check his conscience. It's only his conscience that can save Nigerians. A lot of deals are cut in the back in order to be able to get some of these people. I'm not insinuating that that was what was done for him. And he must perpetually be reminded that history will remember him. If he does it for good, or if he doesn't do it for good. Like Mahmoud now, he has had his time. And for me, except they are trying to write terrible history, Mahmoud was a total and absolute show of shame. So I feel that he must always remember that he will be judged. And if he remembers that he will be judged, we will not have to bother ourselves with, oh, EFCC should be put in place, ICPC should be put in place, the civil society and things like that. If we have all those things in place, and we do not have a person that has the conscience to do the right thing by Nigerians, it will all be like water that is poured inside a basket. No matter the best efforts, the basket will never be full.
Okay, Festus, what are your thoughts on this same particular question? What do you think the INEC needs to do differently leading up to 2027?
Well, for me, I would say that, yes, they should play by the rules. We do not have a perfect electoral law. No country in the world has perfect laws. But as it were, are we even playing by the rules? I do not think so. We want a leadership in INEC that is willing to comply by the rules. But again, realistically, that would be difficult because of the kind of electoral system that we operate now. We need to go back to the wise electoral reform report. We need to adopt that. The duty of appointing, chairman of INEC and REC should not be left to the president and the other bodies. It should not be left to the president. We were in this country, this same country, some few years ago, when the late President Muhammadu Buhari nominated one of his aides as REC. Thankfully, the Senate rejected the said person. But the president at the time to have the audacity to appoint or to nominate for appointment one of his political aides demonstrates to you the esteem with which the political elite in our country take INEC. So, yes, as it's where they should comply by the rules, but if we are truly serious for true reform, then we need to go back to that wise report and really ensure that we implement it. Again, we also need an INEC that is truly committed to the adoption of technology in the conduct of elections. And when I'm talking about this, I'm really talking about the true adoption of IREV. And we can only help ourselves by ensuring that the framework for IREV is legislated in our law, so that we would not have the kind of experience we had in 2023, where they have in their guidelines and on their website and all of that, they created a structure for IREV. But when we got to court, the position was that this is not necessarily supported by law. So we want the commitment, we want them to play by the rules, and we also want a more strengthened legal framework for our electoral system.
That is very brilliant. However, I think we can all agree that the job of a smooth election is not just left to INEC. We need to make sure that every other stakeholder is fully involved, from the political parties, to the security agencies. Now, speaking about the political parties, do you think we have a viable opposition that could possibly checkmate whatever that might come up in 2027? Also, what measures do you think the security agencies are putting in place? Are they also independent? Because obviously the federal government controls the security agencies. Absolutely. So these are some of the questions that the everyday Nigerian has. Well, what do you have to say about that?
Okay, I feel that there is enough, there is substantial opposition if they are not splintered. I feel that they don't stand a chance in the farthest part of hell if they do not all come together. And by all, I mean almost all the significant ones. If we have to drop names, Labour Party has to join powers with the PDP and has to join power with the ADC. So maybe the others too can join along the way in some way, shape or form. But if that doesn't happen, if just the two of them form, in a manner of speaking, Voltron, it will be incomplete Voltron to be able to take on the mega mound APC and the political sagacity of the president, which we must not throw to the dogs. It's very, very significant and important. So if the political parties can come together, yes, there is viable opposition against the incumbent ruling party. Having said that, with respect to the security agencies, we have to remind them of their constitutional duty. Their loyalty is supposed to be to the Constitution at all times, and not to any political party or any power that be at the moment. So as much as possible, if they all remember this and they all decide to stand by this, and by they, I mean the security agencies, I think that they will be able to do right by the Nigerian people. And this time, much more of Nigerians will have direct and correct take on who eventually becomes the leader of this country, and it should not be politicians in one way or another choosing themselves or recycling themselves by manipulating the process.
All right, Justice. And Festus, how do you think Nigerians can regain trust again, not just in the political system, but in their country? How can we regain that trust again?
Well, for me, I would say that the way and manner people can regain trust is for those in the helm of affairs to deliver the dividend of democracy to our countrymen. As far as I'm concerned, I laugh hysterically when people tell me we do not have an opposition. We are only looking at it from the prism of a political party or all this PDP, ADC, and the Labour Party and the rest of them. I do not think so. I'm not really distracted by the theatrics of those who are, Labour Party or PDP or ADC in the day and they are APC at night. Those are not the real opposition. Those who are real oppositions, as it were, are the suffering people of this country who are suffering the adverse effects of the misrule that we witness on a daily basis. They are the young persons who are out of school. They are the young persons who have no job. They are those who cannot afford health care. They are those who cannot afford the daily bread. These are the real opposition. And let me tell you the truth. Our people are waiting for 2027 to show their, very discontent against the current authorities. So, for me, I believe, yes, we might not have the opposition in the sense of having a political party that is, really, fighting strongly against, the misrule that we witness on a daily basis. But I can tell you that the real opposition are the people who are suffering in this country. And I'm very confident that in no distant time they are going to come out and, express their dissatisfaction at the ballot. And I feel that the security agencies should be told in very clear terms that this is not business as usual. 2027 is not going to be business as usual. The young people of this country, particularly, will come out en masse.
Yeah.
We'll see how we've been encouraging ourselves. You saw how we came out in 2023. You see that we are now more interested in taking back our country from those that have held it to ransom. So the security agencies should be advised again to play by the rules. INEC should be advised to play by the rules. And hopefully we'll get a better country that we all yearn for.
All right, thank you very much, Festus. Thank you very much, Justice, for joining us. And yes, we truly do hope that 2027 elections will be free, fair, and very, very credible.